Up, everybody? How's your Sunday evening going? I'm gonna turn on some more light. Hold on. There we go. Still trying to get this new hat. I got a big head, so you gotta curl it just right. I'm not really a straight brim hat kind of guy. Not that this wasn't perfectly straight, but I'll give it a minute or so here. Let some people join before we get going. There we go. Telling you, man, we got to figure out this hat.
What's wrong with it? It looks good.
Looks great from the side. I'm not crazy about this bill.
I wouldn't talk about that online.
Oh, I love the hat. I just gotta. It's brand new. You know, you got to fit a hat, right? It's got to fit, and then you got to break it in. All right, what's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Sunday night, man. We don't ever talk on Sunday night. It's like a special occasion. It's like a holiday. Oh man, what an amazing weekend! This was my first ever trip with the great people at JT Outdoors. One of the JT Pro staffers, Burke, lives up Saratoga way, but they fish Lake George and Schroon Lake religiously all winter long. They're big fishermen year round, but through the ice, they chase lake trout up there. And these guys are not local, like live right there in the lake. I think they said they lived about an hour away, but they fish it a lot. It'd be like an Oneida guy going up and fishing. Even Oswego is 45 minutes. Or, if you went up to Chameau or Thousand Island. I'm going to tell you, it's beautiful up there. It was a great weekend, but yeah, Burke. So there was 4 in his group and there was 3 in our group. And I went up with Terry Wicks and Matt Bain. Great. It's nice when you travel with guys that are great, it makes everything wonderful. And it's funny. We traveled together. Those guys have traveled together a lot for a lot of years, and you could tell. So I just try to fit in and figure out what I can do or bring to the group dynamic. And it's funny. I've never really taken a ton of fishing trips with buddies. I was always the one here that was taking people fishing, groups of buddies. I've done that my whole life, but I've never really done that much. So this trip for me was pretty cool too. I mean, it was cool in a lot of ways, but it was cool for me because I was going on the trip, and that was pretty awesome. I was geeked out all last week and in preparation for this, and I was really excited. And sometimes that works against me, but it was a great trip. A great trip. It was an adventure, man. So let's start the recap. This is the weekend recap. Let's start in chronological order. All right. So it's Friday afternoon, about 4:30-ish. We meet at Terry's house. We load everything. There's 2 sleds. And when I say 2 sleds, like Terry's a master fabricator, and his sled and Matt's sled are completely rigged self-contained. It's like they've turned it into a boat. It's a fishing sled. It's an ice fishing sled, and it has tricked out both of them. I mean, I'm like, man, this is awesome. And they're loaded in the trailer, in the back of Terry's truck. I mean, a 2500 Chevy is the whole back and under the cap is just packed with rod cases and bags and duffels and live scope and Vexlars and hubs. And we're like, man, and it was just awesome. I mean, but we're loading it up on the coldest day of the year with the wind howling, the snow blowing. It's blowing 30 miles an hour on Friday. It's brutally bitter cold. In the process of getting everything loaded, like you had to already bundle up because your hands and everything was just, nothing was working. We finally get the whole thing loaded, get the trailer hooked on the truck, and we're like, yes, off we go. And so now we're heading east. So we go all the way down 31 to Canastota. We make the right there at the end of the lake. So we go all the way down, make the right, hit the throughway, and we, by the time we get to the other side, the east side of the casino, the roads are clear and dry, and it's just windy and cold. And the whole rest of the ride was great. No snow, no nothing. That ride down 31 Friday night, they had 31 closed for one accident. There was another one we crept around, and there was a third one that they were just clearing. It was a nightmare. It just frigid cold. Everybody knows. So that's Friday. We get all the way up to Schroon Lake, and the place we're staying. It's an old motel, strip motel, Adirondack strip motel, and there's cabins. 500 yards from the lake. There's a restaurant right across the street. Couldn't have been easier. So we pull in over there, park, go in and eat first before we even go and check in. And have dinner. Everything's great. Head back over, drop the trailer, go over to the rooms. We don't even get out of the office getting our keys. Now, hold on. I got to back up. While we're at dinner, Courtney texts me, power's out at home. Here, I'm 3.5 hours away. She's home and with my son Danny, 18-year-old Danny. Power's out, and we find out that there's somebody took down 3 poles up Central Square, just like this. So on the coldest night of the year, howling wind, storm, she's home here alone. Well, again, her and her son, but I'm not here. And I'm panicking. And like I said, I'm 4 hours away. And we're trying to get a hold of Niagara Mohawk. Her phone's not charged. I'm like, what are we going to do? And it's frigid cold. Like, I'm sure there had to have been other people than us that were affected. And that house cooled off quick, and so we finish dinner, we go over and check in, and I'm still trying to figure out what to do. We finally heard word that they figured to be back on by 11:30. They were okay for another hour. This was probably 10:30. We leave the office. We go over to the hotel or to our rooms. We walk out of the office, and everything goes black. And you can see the restaurant we just left across the street goes black. So now we're out of power up there. It's 20 below zero, and the wind up there when you got out of the truck sounded like a freight train. And the first time we got out of the truck, I stopped and looked around because I thought it were snowmobiles, is what I thought. The trail was right there, and you saw where there had been snowmobiles, and I thought there was a whole herd of them coming at us. And then there's nothing. And I'm like, it's the trees. It was the wind. I'm like, oh, it was howling. Gnarly. So we walk into our rooms, and the rooms are warm because the heat had been on, but now it's off. And Now we got to move all of our stuff into our rooms. And by the time we get moved in, I can see my breath in my room, and there's no power. And we have no way of knowing, nobody said anything up there, and it was, I don't know, 3 hours, 4 hours. I don't know. We all got our striker suits on. I had my striker suit on, my sock hat, my 2 hoods, under 2 extra blankets, and I slept like that. Sometime in the middle of the night, the heat came back on, the power came back on, but they had one little space heater in the room, and you're like, that didn't do anything. So that's how we slept the first night. We get up the next morning, and the wind stopped, it was bitter cold, but the wind stopped. When we got down to the lake and we got everything set up, and it really wasn't bad. And those striker suits, so my striker suit came in the mail on Friday afternoon before we left. And I've never had one before. And even in 20 below, the very first time I ever wore it, and I had full gear underneath and I was insulated and everything, that stuff was too hot. It was too hot. I was sweating while we were setting up the hub and getting everything unloaded after we got the sleds and stuff down on the ice. I couldn't believe that I was sweating. That not a stitch of air. And as soon as you got your back to the wind with that striker suit and put the hood up, and it was a complete shell all the way around you, it was game over. Like you were completely. I don't know. I guess you might have been able to fish outside. You still couldn't have. It was brutal. We were in the shanty all day. And that first day we had 2 Vexlars and a live scope going the whole time. Man, there was fish in and out and big marks, and you're watching them on the live scope, and you're playing keep away with them. You're right in front of them and you're watching them. It's like me watching the screen right now as I'm talking to you guys. You'll see that fish go up, and then you're like, oh, and then he would stop. He'd go right back down to the bottom. In that threshold, I don't think we ever had anything chase that came up more than 15 feet off the bottom. And Saturday we were in 53 feet of water on the edge of a drop off, and today we were in 30 on the top of a drop off. Well, there was a step right there, and then it was deeper on the one side. But that first day and that first morning, especially up until about lunchtime, I don't know, we must have had, I bet you 25 or 30 fish that came in and looked, and we never, I shouldn't say never. Matt had one that was there briefly, and Terry had one that was there briefly, like just on the edge, and you go to set them, and there was that moment of it was in something and then it wasn't. Terry actually caught a perch on Saturday. It's funny, him of all people in a lake that doesn't have many perch, caught a perch on the bottom with a metal jigging spoon in 53 foot of water, about 6 inches long. It was kind of funny because we'd been asking those guys that we were with, and they're like, no, it's just smelt up here. Terry, the United Lake kid, catches a perch. We're like, right on. Let's see if we can find a walleye now. But yeah, we fished, and for me, like Eric Wisniewski was kidding me the other day when we talked about doing the raffle and raffling off a day of ice fishing with me, and he's like, and not for just 2 hours either. So Eric, I'm telling you, we fished hard this weekend. I bet you we were in the shanty on the ice actively fishing for 12 or 13 hours in a day and a half. And everything was awesome except for the fishing. And by Saturday afternoon, we didn't see much, although we saw clouds and clouds of smelt all through the water column. And with the way the Panoptix screen is, it's the 12-inch screen, and you could see the cloud going all the way up to almost the surface. And we tried jigging. You guys be careful. We tried jigging for them a little too. I even put some little tungsten jigs down, but we couldn't get any of them to go. But I mean, we fished hard this weekend. Hard. Spent all those hours staring at the screen because today, our the other four guys that fished that all the time, they had 2-3 between them. They had three between four guys. One of which was on a jaw jacker with a live sucker down there. That was pretty cool. That was the first time I've ever seen a jaw jacker from start to finish. Because we were standing there talking and they all had their backs to the flags. And it was just like watching rod tips on the back of the charter boat on downriggers. It was like, boing. And it sat straight up because I saw it go and I go flag. And Brooks, the guy that we were with from up there, it was his jaw jacker. He goes, it's just sitting there. And we watched it. And I'll bet you it was a solid 30 seconds, maybe a touch more. Then it started going, whoa, 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 in the holder, and that fish started running. That was pretty cool. It was I don't know, 17, 18-inch lake trout like this. Beautiful color up there. So I've spent my life chasing Lake Ontario lake trout on the charter boat. And those fish up there are pale white, silvery, and their back, and then the markings on their side are like a light faded slate blue kind of color. These fish up there, because that water is so tannic, it's very tea colored. Well, it's very tannic up there. Those fish look much darker, much darker than a normal lake trout. And when it first came to the hole, because he's fighting it and I'm at the hole waiting to, out of the hole. And when it first come up next to it, of course they're related anyway, but it looked like a brook trout because it was so dark. And I'm not used to seeing lake trout that dark, but it was dark and the spotting on it and the pattern was just gorgeous. They're beautiful fish. And it gave an excellent account of itself. I wanted to set the hook on one so bad. The problem is now that's just going to fuel the fire, and I'm gonna because now I really want to, and but it up there it's funny, like those guys said, you might be able to get 10 or 12 in a day. We're very spoiled. A lot of the guys watching me right now fish a NIDA, or something like that, and the NIDA a lot of days, most days, is a numbers game. So if they got 10 or 12, that might be between four of them. And I would think if each of them caught 10, that would, in the same day, that would be a banner day. And a lot of people have said, you got to move more. Today we didn't. And with all the equipment we had, if we were in flip overs, you might have been able to move more, and you had plenty of ice. Not a ton up there, and I thought there would be more, but we had 7 or 8 inches. I measured 7 yesterday morning, and I didn't measure again this morning. It looked about the same. But that ice up there today was talking, and popping and cracking, and twice we had water come up in the holes when it cracked. And one time Terry and I are sitting kind of shoulder to shoulder, and it went, whoop, and you could feel yourself. It's more in your head, but I bet you it moved like that, and we both went, like all of a sudden you're like, well, do I need to get out of the shanty in a hurry and go like this on the ice, but again, not that it's going to do that, and it's compressed so tightly together that it's just from stress. But boy, when it's a stress, that's why they call it stress crack. About 7 inches, give or take. So it was an awesome weekend. It was an adventure. It really was an adventure. Today was much slower. By the time we got all set up, I think we had maybe 3 or 4 lake trout come in on the screen. And when I say on the screen, when you're looking at live scope, you can tell you can physically tell the difference in size. I mean, it is noticeable. It's unmistakable because you're seeing your lures the whole time as you're jigging. And that was a really, really cool, whatever boat, whatever boat I'm in this spring, I'm really, really leaning towards putting the live scope in, and most likely as a bow mount. But it's really cool. We had one, so we were set in kind of a triangle like this, boom, 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 in the shanty, and all told, we were in a big hub, but still, you're 3 to 4 feet apart. Your holes, in that triangle, and so the live scope in this corner was picking up all 3 sets of jigs, so you could watch all 3 of them at the same time. And we had one fish come in yesterday. And again, everything's trial and error in fishing. Like there is no, people can say to you, oh, well, you're supposed to do this. Okay, great. But that's not the only thing that works, and so they're like, oh, pull it away from them or give it to them or there's the myriad of options and the fish dictate that, not us, Anyway, we had one fish come in. And so here's 3 different situations going on at the same time. And he came zipping in and he went to Terry. I wasn't, sorry, there was 2 because mine was down there, but I wasn't doing anything because I was watching the screen getting ready to start filming. Comes right into Terry like this, and then it goes over to Matt and chases it up like this, and then it stops and Terry's going to be over here, and it went like this, and then back down to Matt's after he dropped the jig back down, and then over like this, and it looked like a pinball. And I'll bet you it did that 4 or 5 times before it finally left. And we just couldn't get it to go. And you're watching it. You're looking at it, at that fish, and you can tell which way he's facing. You can tell which way he's swimming because you'll physically see the tail go like this. You can tell when he turns and he goes outside of the cone and everything. It really was fascinating. That I enjoyed that thoroughly all weekend, watching that and when there were other fish around. And like I said today we never marked a single bit of bait at all, 0. Yesterday we had, in the morning when we had all the activity and those fish were in the predators were in the area, we had clouds and clouds of smelt, clouds of them. And that would be, like I say, we were in 53 foot of water, and there were times where those fish were all the way through the water column from bottom to underneath the ice. And here's another thing that I thought was fascinating. These guys also said that early morning, they'll put their jaw jackers down 6 inches under the ice, and that those salmon are all up there cruising or in super, super shallow water, as much as 2 foot of water right up in shore. Those salmon are cruising and trying to herd those smelt up into the shallows where they can ambush them and just slaughter them. God bless you. And so they'll put them down 6 inches, no more than a foot under the ice with a lively minnow. And if you're going to catch salmon, they said on purpose, that's the time to do it, which I thought was really fascinating. I never think of anything being all the way up there at the just under the ice. I don't know why. To me, winter ice fishing is always right on the bottom, but that's not the case, obviously. So I thought that was super fascinating too. So like I say, it was just an outstanding, interesting, adventure-filled weekend with 0 hookups. Go figure, 0. And the 3 of us, as we were talking on the way home, and then we said goodbye, at Terry's house. I said the same thing. I'm like, man, what a great weekend. The only thing we were lacking were bites. Fishing's fishing, right? I mean, we were there. We had everything. We did. There was nobody around us that was wailing on them. I can tell you that, because there were a lot. I mean, there was guys up at the other end of the lake or something. The lake's not super long, or I think it's 7. What'd they say? 8, 9 miles long. but it's in some spots it was walkable if you wanted to walk all the way across it. It wasn't that terribly far. A mile, half mile, 3/4 of a mile, somewhere around there. I don't know. But there's just mountains on both sides, and all that water up there is just usually just slivers in the valley where the valley is filled in. But it really was awesome. I mean, now today we were down on the farther down the lake to the south end, and our angle changed. And as soon as we got down on the ice, Terry and I were like, "Holy cow!" And we turned around, and here's these. They said it was the guys we were with said it was the start of the high peaks, but I grew up here in Central New York, and the biggest thing we have around is when you're out on a night of lake and you see the hills to the south of Syracuse. Down Georgetown, DeRider, down that way, Casanova. But up there, man, we saw, and I mean, everything's snow covered, but you could see the one in the far distance that I didn't realize till later in the day wasn't a cloud. And Terry goes, "Did you see that one way back there?" And it was snow covered. Now, I thought, well, maybe it was like whiteface or something, but they said that was farther away. And I didn't know the name of what they said it was, so I didn't really pay attention. But should I say that? But it was gorgeous. And we don't see that kind of stuff here. We're flatlanders, really, truly. We're in the plateau. Lake Ontario is the divot in the plateau that the glacier left, when it came off Tug Hill. And that shit fascinates me. That's a whole nother discussion. I love geography and weather and stuff like that. So, but remind me, and I'd love to have that conversation some other time. But you got to see all those huge mountains, which again were huge to me. And then even right along both sides of the lake, it's all rock. It's these huge granite faces. I think that's granite up there. Okay, so Steven lives up there, and him and I have been talking all weekend on Instagram, and we went to an area where he suggested today, and he's saying that we might have been able to see Mount Marcy, but it was huge, and you could tell the snow covering on the top there was no trees up there. It was just snow, and it really shined bright white, which is why I thought it was a cloud. I don't know. I'm just a kid from Central New York. I thought that on the way home today. I thought to myself, in my lifetime, the Adirondack Mountains are really, in the grand scheme of a percentage of time in my life, like maybe 1%, I've been up there. It's been very few times, and it always seems so far away, and I've never really went up there. But man, it's gorgeous up there. It's just, and you forget how, like you wouldn't have had to gone far to be pretty desolate up there. And the restaurant we were eating in last night, there was a picture, and they had a bunch of old pictures on the wall, and they were signed and dated, and they were all from the early 20s. And there was one, Terry told me which it would be, Model A, Model T, I don't know. Rumble seat, you'd probably know. You were driving back then. He's laughing already. I don't know. What was that, Bob? Was that the Wright brothers that built that, or? That was one of those ones you had to crank in the front of the car, They had a picture of it on the wall, and it was going up the side of this mountain that was just like somehow there was some sort of bulldozer in those days or something cutting a road into the side of a mountain. And here's this old rumble seat, Jesus Christ. Here's this old Model T, like on an angle going up like this. And I thought to myself, God, if it feels desolate to me up here now, what the hell did it feel like 100 years ago in the 20s, And if something happened to whoever was driving that ancient old car, Like, where were they going to go? How many people could have possibly been up there? And like there was boogeymen and Bigfoot and wolves and who knows what lived in those mountains back in those days, and I just looked at it thinking, maybe it made me think, and this is completely sidetracked from the fishing trip, but I really was thinking this last night as I was having dinner. I'm like, then it makes me think about all those people that went west, in this country. And I just like, man, that's a whole different breed of people. Like, that's cool. That's why we're a country, But anyway, I thought the mountains were beautiful. We had a nice view today because driving up Friday night was a night, and we didn't see anything. So coming out of there today, I spent my whole time staring out the window. I saw a couple deer, not nearly as many as I expected to. Oddly enough, I kept bugging all those guys. I was asking all kinds of dumb tourist questions, when we were ice fishing today. I was asking them, is there moose up there? I assume bears, but of course, even though it's been a mild winter, I think the bears still hibernate. I think. And one thing we did see on the way home today, which I thought was odd, I'll bet you I saw 200 turkeys up there. And my first thought was, what the hell are those birds eating up there? It's not all pine. There's hardwood up there, but I just kept thinking to myself, it seems weird that they would be up there. But yeah, we saw 4 or 5 huge flocks, 25, 30 birds in a flock. I wanted to stick my head out the windows. We were driving by and go, and see what they would do. But I was like, well, I don't want to be that guy on the first trip, So that was my weekend, man. We're home, and I can tell you what my week's gonna. Let's switch gears. That was my weekend in one story. This coming Saturday is the Ice Bowl, and we're switching gears to full blown. This weekend kicked it off, even though the fishing wasn't great. That I'm fishing every day this week leading up to the Ice Bowl. I'm not all going to be on Oneida, but the next 2 or 3 days I'm going to be on Oneida. And I'm going out and I'm fishing hard and get some content. And I need to set the hook. Let me tell you, I would love nothing more than to find a nice school of perch tomorrow. I don't need anything fancy. I just need to get this thing greased up and working again. I need to smack some perch right in the face and some walleyes too. And where I'm going isn't far from where I left off. Where I'm going tomorrow isn't far from where I left off in open water season. I don't know if I'll walk all the way out there, but I'm going out I'm going to go find the outer edge of the weed bed. So I want to be right on or just outside that line. And I'm going to make the assumption that all those fish are going to be traveling up and down, just like they always do, up and down that line. And, my guess is you'll see them, they'll come through, you'll hit however many, and then they'll keep going. That's my guess, which I'm good with. But I'm walking out tomorrow morning out there. Saw some more big pictures of big walleyes up in Chameau. I haven't heard really much on the good perch bite, and I also thought that somebody told me over the weekend. I think Terry told me that a big chunk of it opened up from that wind Friday and Saturday, which wouldn't surprise me. That must have been howling right up in the front door up there, and the big lake must have been huge, I'm sure. So this week is all ice fishing. We're going to be doing our daily show in the mornings again. I'm going to give everybody a half an hour notice if I can, or if things get really fast and furious with some great action, then we'll go live while we're on them, and then we can fish together, and that'll be fun too. But yeah, I gotta set the hook. And I got 4 rods I got to break in. After I hang up with you guys, I'll be doing that this evening and getting I had my heavier rods with me for the weekend. Not that they get a ton of huge lake trout in Shroon, but you can easily get one in the high 20s at any moment. Most of them run 17 to 20, they said 17 to 24. But so I had my heavier stuff, but I've got a couple of the new JT light rods and perch rods, even a panfish rod, because I might go poke around in a little shallower and see if I can find those big pumpkin seeds that we caught all summer long on blade baits. That might be my late winter quest to see if I can find those and jig them on camera. I had such a ball with those pumpkin seeds. Everybody that watched and knows, that watched me over the summer, for a while there, we were getting big pumpkin seeds, multiple a day, hitting the I-1 blade baits, just like a walleye, just like anything else. And man, they were fun. And I one of the JT rods that I just got is specific, just a panfish rod. You can use it for anything if you really wanted to, but it's geared for panfish, and I want to really go see if I can find those big pumpkin seeds. So, but ice bowl, Saturday night. We're all going to get together. We're going to have a good time, and there's going to be a ton of great stuff there. We got 8 outstanding raffles. We're going to talk about it every single day between now and then. And please, I'm asking all of you, help me out and share the Ice Bowl content on your social media. Take 30 seconds of your life and let's make this a fun event that everybody knows about. And if anybody, it's open to the public, obviously. It's free of charge, free admission. I got a whole box full of cool stuff to give away. There's free gifts for the first 100+ people that come in the door. There's a cash bar. We've got 2 great seminars, one by Brian Hammond and one by Nick Sokolowski. 2 longtime Oneida Lake guys. And this is even though these techniques they're going to teach you guys can be used far and wide, these are Oneida Lake guys. And we're talking about Oneida Lake, but we're talking ice fishing only Saturday night. So let's go through quick and see who's here. Man, there's a lot of people here. This has been a blast. Jim G, Don Birdie, Carl Kapfer. How's everybody doing? Kevin Stone, you unthawed yet? Yeah. My feet were so cold Friday night into Saturday morning with no power. I ended up putting my fuzzy line Crocs on and then wrapping my feet in a blanket with my wool socks on. David Gould, John Karnowski. Okay, Beaker, you live. Very funny, Scott. Eric Wisniewski. You guys are awesome. E-Tricks, thanks, buddy. Hat needs some fish slime. Yeah, tell me about it. Fish slime and some sweat. George Parson. Hats are like a wallet. Got to wear them in. You do. You absolutely do. And like I say, it's funny. I just gotta give it that Ranger roll. You gotta break them in. What's up, Merlin? Jim Carker. How you doing, buddy? Rob H. Oneida was popping big time today. Several cracks open. Yeah, I don't doubt it. It was so bitter cold. I'm assuming part of it is the humidity got back into that ice and it started to swell, I would think. Because that bitter, cold, dry air sucked that moisture right out of it. I'll tell you, we didn't bring a drill with us to screw the anchors. Those hubs have an anchor that looks like like a pin, but the top of it is a T handle. And I have an adapter that goes right over the top of it and drill it right down in the ice. We tried doing it by hand Saturday morning in that bitter cold. It was like trying to get it into concrete. And Terry got it down about this far, and a whole big piece of ice like this just popped out because there was no elasticity to it. It was so brittle. And that's because it was so dry. But that's my weirdo. I know. I got you. Welcome home. Michelle said she saw your. Oh, you saw it. That was funny. You guys are all talking to each other. Sorry, I'm reading it. Might have been able to see Mount Marcy. We talked about that. You would love it up the Ausable River. I saw a post on Facebook today from Ausable Chasm from Saturday, and everything, all that mist was turned into ice, and there was just everything was covered in ice. It was awesome. Right there where it comes down off the chasm, and there's that one, I don't know, that must have been a mill or something. There's a house right there. Everything was ice. That was insane. And there was another post that said they measured wind chill on the top of Whiteface at minus 81 at some time between Friday and Saturday. That's cold. Rumble seat, I couldn't resist, buddy. Don Terry, Don, I'll text you later and see what you're doing. I see your thing here. Maybe we'll hook up. I was just in Deep Creek Lake ice fishing. Is that up there? How about in 2 days? 40 pickerel, 8 yellow perch, and 6 walleye. We just came home 30 minutes ago. Used tip ups. So where is Deep Creek Lake? Is that in the Adirondacks? There was 4 of us. John Burroughs here. Why not pull out your portable heater for the cabin? Yeah, by the time we thought about that, but it was buried in the truck. And quite honestly, none of us were going back out there. It was easier to put our suits on and huddle inside than dig through that freezing cold truck trying to get the heater underneath. We'd have had to take everything out of the back of the truck and then put it all back in, and that wasn't happening. Looking at Whiteface, I bet. Oh, that's in Maryland. Wow. And you had ice all the way down in Maryland? Holy crap. My buddy Tony's fishing out in Cleveland area. He had one keeper this afternoon and a bunch of shorts. Too many shorts to count. Interesting. All right, everybody. I've taken everybody's Sunday evening as much as I can. I'm going to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed the story, and I will see everybody on the ice tomorrow morning. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out. JT Outdoors just commented, great time this weekend. Next adventure is always right around the corner. Be legendary. So a couple of Matt's friends, Matt Bain's friends said Cold Front Bain. That's what they call him when he's filming. And he lived up to his name this weekend. And I didn't know about that name, but I know about that name now, my friend. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great evening. Get ready for the work week. It's supposed to be, weather's supposed to be warmer. Let's hope for no rain. Okay? Let's hope for no rain, and we should be able to survive the warmer temperatures. So have a great evening. Keep your tip up.